You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we have a two-part show for you today. In part one, we'll be talking England v South Africa as Ben's boys bounce back. And in part two, we'll be talking about India v Pakistan as India squeaked a low-scoring thriller in the UAE. I'm Jack Hope, and I'm joined by Max Rowe Brown. Max, biggest game in cricket this weekend. I don't like Cricket Club, the Royal Sovereign. I don't like Cricket Club win with 2 balls remaining and 1 wicket in hand. A remarkable victory for the boys in blue.
Yeah, and you just have to say, kudos to the guys at the end who held their nerve to finish it off. They thought their captain had taken it home, MS Dhoni style, but he, unfortunately, fell at the last hurdle and left it to the bowlers to finish the job for him. But as it was, they did that. So an excellent day for the I Don't Like Cricket Club, and I'm sure many a beer was sank in celebration given the bank holiday weekend.
We did drink quite a few beers. So we had Saturday night. We won that match. I was the captain, by the way, if you don't know the reference. I was out for 57 with 12 needed, and our 10 and 11 knocked them off, which was nerve-wracking.
Was it with a big 6 as well?
No, it was a chipped 2 over
chipped
the infield. So we did 2 off the last over, Max. It was swing and miss, swing and miss, swing and miss, chipped 2. It was, but they all count, don't they?
Yeah,
they all count. So we had beers then, and then we had the half the team were Indian, half the team were Pakistani. So we went and watched the game together.
Oh, amazing!
Yesterday,
nice.
Drank some more beers. So it's been quite a lot of beers this weekend. What we'll do on this episode, we will talk about England first because that's the way I've made my notes. The game finished first, technically, as well. And then we'll do India v Pakistan in the second half, probably about half an hour each. So if you have a particular interest in one or the other, do that. If you're watching on YouTube, sorry for all the pointless exposition. Max, what are the messages for the listeners?
They are to like and subscribe to this video, this being the England video, on YouTube, and also head over to Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at the Cricket Pod to follow us over there. And if you want to support us directly, keep us going, then patreon.com/the Cricket Pod is where you go for that.
Final reminder as well. I think this is not the final reminder. A reminder. This show is brought to you by manscaped.com. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off anything you want to buy from manscaped.com.
Literally
20% off plus free shipping. Lawnmower 4.0. That's your ball shaver. Yeah, boxers. I was wearing the boxers yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
For India v Pakistan. Yeah. So that's lucky boxers if you're an India fan.
I bet Hardik wears them.
Of course he does. 20% off at manscaped.com using the code CricketPod. Max, England v South Africa. We did a little day one wrap up, didn't we?
We did.
In 30 seconds or less, what happened?
After day one.
Well, what happened?
What happened? England bounced back, knocked South Africa over, as we discussed on day one. And then what happened was Jack and I said England, being the competent side that they were, would go and put on a sensible score of over 350 in the second innings and not have to bat again because they'd then run through South Africa. And that is exactly what happened, with a little bit of ebb and flow in the middle. There was some resistance from South Africa in the middle orders, but the new ball was taken and then it was all over very quickly.
Yeah, that is kind of the match summary, isn't it? I can't remember where we left it, but I think it was the end of the day and Zach Crawley had sort of blocked out for dear life. He ended up with 38 from 101. That means he's in the team for another five tests, would you say? That's probably at least 5 tests.
I think so.
England had a micro collapse. And none of the top 5 made it to 50. And then the Bens, Big Ben and Little Ben.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, Big Ben and Little Ben, 103 and 113, not out.
Yeah, unbeaten century for the best looking man in cricket.
Yeah, to put England, up to 415. England actually declared. James Anderson just could not be bothered to bat.
Why? Why risk it? Why risk making him face Nokia?
That's what happened. There was a little bit of pressure. Ross brought this up in the preview show for this season. We'll talk about the Bens first, and then we'll talk about the rest of the match. But I think this was the pivotal passage of play was the 2 centuries scored by these 2 players.
Yeah.
There was some pressure on both of them. Stokes, because he hasn't batted like a proper batter all summer, even though when we looked into this, he was averaging 37, which isn't diabolical. It's okay for your number 6 who also bowls. And then Ben Folkes he hasn't got a Test century since debut years ago. Hasn't been having a great summer. I think he'd been averaging under 20 this year. He comes through with the goods and effectively ended the Test as a serious contest, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it was very unlikely that South Africa were going to overhaul that deficit, even if they did make England bat again. I think even with the potential fallibility of England's lineup and the 5th day pitch and the 2 spinners that South Africa went with, even then I think England would have probably been able to knock off a small total. So it was really important, given, like you say, the quick wickets that South Africa managed to take on the first day, and we were a little concerned, weren't we, that it might be at 147 for 5 that we might end up only on 200 and something, and then the game is on. But no, between them, they were brilliant. Ben Stokes batted normally, didn't he? If we start with the first Ben, he did what we were suggesting he hadn't been doing for the entire summer, and he looked really solid, and then started to kind of go back into like a bit of running down the wicket of people and some of the more innovative stuff which we saw. And that worked quite nicely. I think he sort of once both of them had seen a few overs of Nortje off, it was a lot of spin, wasn't it? So I think that potentially played into their hands, particularly Ben Folkes, who is probably one of the few England players who can actually play spin properly.
Yeah, it definitely, Ben Folkes was very, very, very comfortable against spin, actually. And I'm sure, I was watching this, I was commentating on it at Guerrilla Cricket. He basically, until Stokes was out, didn't really hit any boundaries. What he did was just score really fluently off the spinners. After the end of the day as well, and maybe this shows how much of a thinking cricketer he is. He was talking about spin matchups and stuff like that, and saying how him and Ben Stokes were at the wrong end because there was the left arm off spinner, right arm off spinner combo, and he was saying we didn't quite get our matchups right, but we were still able to score. But he did, he looked good. I think South Africa, they made their bed and they had to lie in it to some extent with the spinners. It wasn't really working from the point of view of actually looking threatening. There were spells where Harmer and Maharaj were able to control the scoring rate, and if you compare their sort of end figures to some of the other spinners that England have, to Bracewell and earlier in the summer, they come out of it looking okay. Going at 3 and over, they pick up 3 wickets between them for 150, which isn't amazing, but
it's not amazing. But it's in a first innings, it's not too bad, is it? But
yeah, but that was it. The actual threat came mainly from the seamers. I mean, I think Nortje, he gets the 3, doesn't he? He gets 3 for 82. Gidi, I thought, bowled really well for 1 wicket, though. I thought actually, for large spells, looked like South Africa's most likely bowler to take
he had a couple of close shouts, didn't he? There was some DRS action which helped things out as well. But he was impressive.
Not really sure why, but the wheels came off a bit for Rabada. He was quite expensive, but Stokes was excellent, and Folkes was terrific too. He also said that batting at number 7 in this England team, he didn't see really his role as scoring centuries, which there's a little bit of an indictment of the bottom 4. Between them all, they won't be able to last long enough to get to 100.
It's not an invalid point, is it? Let's be honest. When you've got Nighthawk Stuart Broad to follow, who
Nighthawk got 21 runs.
He did in 14 balls. He did exactly what you want Stuart Broad to do. But that's not generally conducive to seeing out 100. Batting at number 7, but he did, and I'm delighted, particularly.
Did you see? Did you see Jack Leach's reverse hit? People say it was reverse sweep. It was a reverse slog sweep. It went over extra cover.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, it's something about England's left-handed tail enders. They like a little reverse sweep, don't they? It's James Anderson's favourite shot.
It is. Robinson broke it out as well. There's something going on there. I mean, you don't really see Broad do it, but I suppose he's got all of the other shots you need.
He's got quite a good conventional sweep, doesn't he? He doesn't need the reverse.
So, I mean, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
Anything else from England's batting or South Africa's bowling that you wanted to highlight before we talk about?
I just think it is, a lot of. I'm still confused about how people were banging on saying that picking the two spinners was the right approach, because basically half by accident, because we were, I don't want to peek behind the curtain too much, but semi-joking about about how the game was likely to unfold. But I was saying that the issue is they're going to have to spend a lot of time bowling the spinners, and that ended up being the case against two of England's better players of spin. And sort of, there was turn, and that was making people say, well, look, there it is turning. They made the right choice, but it wasn't like that kind of turn that gets wickets, was it? It was turning enough, but it was consistent. It wasn't like anything exploding. There wasn't anything that made you think, oh shit, like put the batsman in two minds. It was like it was something that you could deal with, and I think that was probably drew them in a bit too much into bowling a lot of spin, maybe not trying to rotate it too much. We saw how Ben Folkes has struggled against Nokia in the first test, and maybe another couple of blasts would have been prudent from that point of view. But it turned out how it did, and all credit to the England batters, and it was all over to South Africa at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was that kind of English spin where the surface has gone dry, but whatever's underneath the surface is still, Manchester.
Yeah.
So the ball,
even after this summer.
Yeah, so the ball, it's not hitting any cracks or anything like that. I mean, like, spin's dangerous when there's variable bounce, or is more dangerous, I suppose, when there's variable bounce or variable spin. And what was happening was the ball was, spinning 3 degrees or whatever the CricViz metric you want to read, 30 centimeters, quite a lot of spin, but never really bouncing above knee high when it shouldn't have done, and never going straight on.
Yeah.
So there was a lot, Folkes and Stokes, which I think is always a sign of a good player of spin in general, but they were able to play a lot of it off the back foot after the ball has deviated, and then just to negotiate the ball.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Into gaps.
When it's playing like that, if you can pick up the length well enough, then you're halfway there.
I think from a final point on England, I don't think these are the hardest centuries that Folkes and Stokes will ever hit. I think that the pitch was pretty flat. I think the bowling was relatively unimaginative. I don't think that South Africa picked the right team. And there wasn't, after a point, an awful lot of scoreboard pressure. Like, it was just, we've won this match. We can do what we want now. Let's make sure we pad our stats.
Yeah.
But if you are looking at it from an England point, they haven't really done this to a team consistently for ages. Even in the Bazball games earlier in the summer, it was sort of comeback victories that were the talking point. With maybe the exception of the time they got 500 in response to 500. But it was, what was interesting about this was that it was England getting on top and then actually putting their foot on someone's neck and winning the match. And I don't think England have done that since maybe,
2011?
No, I'm thinking last year when they bowled India out for nothing at Headingley, they did get some runs, didn't they? But I think Root got all the runs. So
it's a real Australian thing to do, isn't it? Just like pounding the opposition.
And then there was Chennai, but again, it was Root that did all the hard work. So it was basically, it was players that weren't Root doing what they were supposed to do, which was good. England then yesterday, South Africa got through to the end of the night on day 2. The writing was on the wall to some extent, and then England. They didn't run through South Africa, but they did bowl them out relatively cheaply. What stood out to you in that innings, Max?
Well, it was done in bursts, wasn't it? So there was a few in the morning after the evening resistance, but then I have to give a lot of credit again to Peterson and Van der Dussen, who held England up for an entire session, and especially Rassi with his busted finger that I don't know, I've maybe seen with a metal splint on it. I don't know what the ultimate damage is, but he obviously
I think he had a broken finger, didn't he?
Yeah.
So,
and obviously could bend it enough to get it into a glove, but it's a sore thing to bat with, and it definitely plays on your mind. So a lot of credit to him for battling out the way he did. And yeah, you sort of, I mean, it was frustration more than anything, wasn't it, in that sort of middle period where England couldn't really break through. And with the lead on the board that they have, and the fact that it was sort of a game of survival rather than trying to score a huge number of runs, the new ball was always inevitable. And the way they used that was quite something. And maybe Ollie Robertson is now a specialist second new bowler as well.
Could be that, yeah. Robinson had a pretty good comeback match, didn't he? 5 wickets overall.
Mm-hmm.
He's apparently become a gym freak.
Yeah,
to get his England career back on track. Have you heard about this?
Maybe the John Lewis tough love's exactly what he needed.
Possibly.
We thought it might have been a bit harsh, but
did you think? Serious question. That he was any fatter or thinner than the last time you saw him play for England?
I thought he looked quite a lot the same. To be honest. maybe it's sort of a bit of extra timber that's been replaced by underlying muscle.
Yeah, could be. I mean, he did bowl. This is a factual statement. He bowled quicker, I think, than. Well, when you say a factual statement, and then you immediately qualify with "I think," it's not a compelling case. No, but he did bowl quicker, according to CricViz, than he had ever for England. He's not rapid. I think he was up to an average speed. I think his average speed was 82.5 miles an hour.
But he touched 85 at times.
Yeah, there's a few factors in that. Like Robinson's height means that the geometry of what trajectory that he releases the ball at will make him appear slower than he is actually bowling. The way the speed gun works is measuring from point A to point B, and Pythagoras and shit means that doesn't quite work for
maths, mate.
Yeah, maths.
Yeah,
because of maths, Robinson is actually faster than the speed gun says.
Okay.
But now he's even.
How quick
faster.
does that make Nokia?
Even faster. Yeah. Even faster.
Yeah.
They're all much faster than you think if they're tall.
100 miles an hour, I think.
So probably 110 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I reckon Nokia. Anyway, Robinson was good. He destroyed a stump to end the game. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, I mean, we had one, but we started off with Anderson cartwheeling a stump out of the ground, didn't we? Which doesn't happen very often.
It happened quite a lot in this match.
I don't know if maybe it was so dry that the stumps just weren't able to stick properly. Yeah, but it was a good stat about Dean Elgar and the number of times he's been bowled in his career. I think it was like 12 in his entire career, and then England have done it sort of twice in the last 2 tests. Obviously, Anderson's one of them was a complete farce. But
still out though.
To completely do Dean Elgar and send it off stump cartwheeling is no mean feat for a 40-year-old as well.
The momentum of the game changed. I'd say momentum. England went from a slow grind to victory to a slightly faster grind to victory, with a massive spell from Ben Stokes.
Yeah.
He bowled 14 overs in a row. Like he gets Peterson and he gets Van der Dussen, which do help him
the ball to Peterson was vicious as well, wasn't it? Absolutely leapt.
The ball to Rassi Van der Dussen, less vicious. But they ended up achieving the same thing. My question to you, Max, is for a guy who's literally bowling on one leg.
Yeah.
In a match where England are 150 odd runs ahead of the game. Why?
Because it's Ben Stokes. I mean, this is this is, it's like
It's
it's a bit
nobody saying to
wishy-washy. It's a
him.
bit wishy-washy to go around, when you do that sort of like, oh, this just shows the man and the character he is and blah blah blah. You get enough of that in like, all the mainstream commentary, but sometimes you kind of do just have to think that is the case, isn't it? Like he wants to be part of it. He wants to be front and center. He is naturally a very tough character, and he felt that he was the man to sort of break the game open at that point. I suppose England, they wanted to make a statement, didn't they? As much as they were likely to win the game, whatever happened, they probably also wanted to make a statement after the size of the kind of ignominy of the defeat first time round, and try and claw back a bit of a bit of face, and sort of in terms of the series as well going into the decider. So there was probably there might have been sort of a mental aspect to it from that side, but one thing I will say is that he's going to have absolutely terrible arthritis in his knees when he's older.
Yeah, I mean that could be on the cards, couldn't it?
Yeah.
They've got a little bit of a break, haven't they?
They do
for the next couple of days. I think that's got to be one of those occasions where somebody in the team says,
what you do,
7 overs,
chill
you've
out.
had enough.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessary.
Yeah,
we can just bowl Joe Root and Jack Leach from either end, and maybe we have to bat again and get 20.
Yeah,
there's no bonus points for bowling them out.
No, ASAP. But we enjoyed it. It was good to watch, and
it's good theatre. It is good theatre. I give you that. I give you that. The final notes I had on this were about South Africa and what they do with Aidan Markram. On Friday's show, I think we broke out the stat: first 1,000 runs averaged 55, second 1,000 runs in Test cricket averaged 25. A bad test,
not
and
improving.
he was out 3 times, which isn't fantastic. They're going to have a problem here, South Africa, aren't they? Because this middle order is already pretty shaky. I think the opening batters give them a pass. I think you could even extend the pass to Keegan Peterson so far in the series. Not really got a score, but he hasn't failed necessarily.
Yeah,
I'd say, and 42 off 159 represents a good effort, I think, in the circumstances. Van der Dussen, we have to assume he won't play.
Yeah,
I think. Verena is, he's only there because Quinton de Kock isn't there. And then Markram has some huge problems. And this isn't even going into the fact that they've got Simon Harmer and Keshav Maharaj at 7 and 8. Or, Marco Janssen, potentially.
Pretty much equivalent record to Simon Harmer, Marco Janssen. So, not really any.
So, they are missing some players. We can give them. Bavuma. We can acknowledge that Bavuma isn't there. Bavuma has had a little bit of a resurgence test wise, and has been scoring runs. And they've got Ryan Rickleton who could come in.
Yeah,
but they probably need to fill 2, maybe 3 of those positions.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
People who can bat, don't they? It's an issue for South Africa.
Yeah, especially sort of you might have thought Ryan Rickleton might come in, for Aidan Markram or something, give him a break, but that's not going to be able to happen if Rassie van der Dussen can't play. So you're then sort of bringing in one of the, you're losing one of the guys who is, I guess, in this current lineup, one of the senior guys in the middle order who one of the guys you might rely on a bit more. Not that he's set the world alight, but decent batter, right? So that adds to it. So I think there will be there'll be some serious concern for South Africa going into the final test, and England will be licking their lips.
Well, we can preview it a little bit closer to the time. I expect that Rickleton will come in.
Yeah, and he's been playing around England already.
He has, He's got. I mean, his recent scores. I think his 6 most recent scores in England include a 133 and a 95.
Yeah.
In the top division of the county championship. So he's there's stuff going on there.
Yeah.
And his first class record in general is pretty decent. Averages 53. It's a strange thing with South Africa. It is a strange thing, I think, with South Africa that so this goes 26.
Mm.
South Africa, to me, they do introduce players into Test cricket quite late.
Yeah.
Like they do 26 for me seems like peak time to come into the Test team. For South Africa, it's like 30. I swear. Anyway, I expect him to come in. We asked for questions, but people, I don't think I submitted any, and I did only do it half an hour before the pod. So we've got no questions. Max, any final thoughts on England v South Africa?
Well done, England. Good performance.
Yes.
Very, very enjoyable to watch. Looking forward to the final game, the decider at the Oval.
The only thing I had, and this is tangent, so I don't want to go into it loads, and we should probably do this on the we've
Preview.
got a week or so until is the ECB recommendations from the Andrew Strauss High Performance Review. I don't know if you had a chance to look through the 34-page PowerPoint slide.
Not yet. No.
Basically, it's lots of stats that don't necessarily mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, it's like England's seam bowlers perform much worse away from home than they do at home versus other countries. And you're like, well,
really?
That's fair enough. And there are probably some problems with it, the type of England seam bowler that's produced, but also England is the best place in the world, bar maybe South Africa and West Indies, to bowl seam.
Yeah.
So you would expect that to be the case.
Mm.
You know, India and Australia, they get to come to England and bowl seam.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
It's very easy, isn't it, to find some numbers and jump to conclusions.
So there's some stuff like that. The general premise is, or the general hypothesis. I don't think they disprove anything, but I'm not sure it tells them exactly what they think.
No,
it tells them. The recommendations themselves are pretty woolly. It's not. There's some quite generic stuff like maybe we should try a different ball. We should possibly reduce the number of days cricket we play overall. But then on the other hand, we should also introduce another red ball tournament during the 100. I don't know. I mean, what I got from it was that they don't really know what the direction of travel is to achieve what they want to achieve. They want England to be better, but they're not really sure how. We can go into that in more detail another time. But it is out there. It's not as earth-shattering, I think, as people maybe worried that it would be. I think Rob Key went on Sky Sports, didn't he, and said
we're not franchising county cricket yet. Then
he said there are some parameters that we're going to work to. One of them is going to be 18 full-time counties. That one of them is going to be that the 100 stays in place. So there's some things that are going to be immovable, and I think it will end up being stuff around the edges. A lot of it was focused on fast bowling and how those guys are protected. So I wouldn't be stunned if there were things like caps on the number of overs that England qualified fast bowlers can bowl in a year, and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
they should basically just borrow a bunch of stuff from baseball in terms of how they look after pitchers. So in baseball, for example, Max, pitchers will often be on a pitch count for a match, but also for the season. So very rarely will you see a starting pitcher throw more than 110 pitches. And over a season, particularly if the guy's quite young, they'll be capped at about 200 innings. And once they reach that point, even if the team's doing well, often they'll just be shut down and they won't pitch anymore to protect, the asset that the baseball club has. You could probably do something similar, I think, for English seamers and stop them being overbowled. I think that's the direction of travel with some of this stuff, rather than anything particularly structurally different. They did say they wanted to reduce the size of the top division. They've just increased the size of that, so maybe it will go back to where it was before. I don't know. Anyway, little reminder: like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes. Be a cross-format player. Do them all. We're on Twitter and Instagram at The Cricket Pod. And this show has been presented to you by manscaped.com. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off their stuff at, as I said, manscaped.com. It's all in the show notes, as is our Patreon. We'll be back with India v Pakistan in a moment.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.